Tuesday, June 10th, here on the Just Baseball Show. That's Aram Layden. I am Peter Apple, and today we're headline hopping. We're going to talk about Eury Perez. We're going to talk about IKF potentially getting traded. What? Forrest Whitley got DFA'd, and then we got one more on the docket. Lamonte Wade Jr. got traded to the Los Angeles Angels. But the big part of this episode is going to be evaluating the best MLB draft prospects still left in the College World Series. There are 8 teams left, and Aram's going to walk us through the people to watch, especially when it comes to this upcoming 2025 draft. And then you got a couple to take a look at for the 2026 draft. And it's all brought to us by the sportsbook born in Vegas. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether that be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JUSTBASEBALL. Why? You get your first bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first wager loses. But remember, gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older. Terms and conditions apply. And I think it's a great idea. If you're interested in sprinkling on any of these college teams to win the College World Series, using that code gets you that first bet offer. Aram, unfortunately, it's you and me again, and I'm still upset. We ended last episode on the last word. I couldn't sleep last night. I was still thinking about your rat shit takes on movies, but we can move past it. I'm an adult.
It's just one of those things. I feel like we were talking about in the Discord. Like I feel like I'm cultured with my baseball knowledge and takes and hip hop / rap, and then I don't have much else going for me beyond that. So I understand that, but I also at the same time, I got to say, I think I see these movies through just a more complex lens than you do. So it's okay. You'll get there. If you keep reading my letterboxed reviews, I think you'll evolve in the way that you can, understand these movies.
Okay, so what Aram just did was fishing. And what he is trying to do is get me upset because he just said that he watches these movies in a complex way that makes my skin crawl, that makes me want to burst out of this screen. And I'm not going to do that, because I'm a journalist and we're here to talk about baseball and we're reserved, we're measured,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to freak out. I'm
Yep.
not going to freak out about that take. But also, how about this? Because we have not decided even on a last word yet, do you want to give us your top hip hop albums of all time as your last word? You wrote
Yeah,
it in
I
the
can do that.
Discord.
I know
You
somebody
like
was
that?
asking for that, so I will absolutely do that.
Okay,
That
so
sounds
stay
good.
tuned until the end of this episode. Arm is going to be dropping his top hip hop albums of all time at the tail end. But first, we have a lot to discuss. You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. First up, Eury Perez is back. He underwent Tommy John at the beginning of 2024 and is now set to return on Monday. We're recording Monday, June 9th, so he's going to pitch today on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates in 22 and 2/3 innings in the minors this year as he's been rehabbing back from TJ. He's got a 1.99 ERA with 27 strikeouts to just 10 walks. He bursts onto the scene as a 20-year-old and then gets hurt, but he's still just 22 years old.
It's crazy that a guy misses a year and a half, right, with TJ, comes back, and he's still younger than most players making their MLB debut, right? He turned 22 about a month and a half ago. So it's that's the positive side, right? Like so much time on his side, still so young after this detour. But just seeing what he was looking like in that, in some of those rehab outings, I mean, I think there was one shaky one. It was about his third outing at low A. And then from that point forward, I mean, he was just dominant. And you expect him to dominate in low A, but then he gets up to triple A. And the funny part about that is he made his triple A debut. He had never pitched at the triple A level because the Marlins called him up straight from double. So this was his first time pitching in triple A because he's doing a rehab assignment there. Strikes out 7 in his first appearance through 3 1/3. And then the next time out, even more locked in on the command. 5 innings of 1 hit ball, no runs, 1 walk, and 4 Ks. I think there's going to be some moments where he gets out of kilter. And I think that's going to be important here as a reminder, like the patience. I think when you're talking about big, tall, hard throwing righties coming off of TJ, especially a younger guy, like there may be some blips. There may be some time to fully get back. He also may just shove right away. Like either could happen. It's really hard to predict. But if it's on the lesser side, don't be worried about it. He's averaging 98 miles per hour on the fastball. He looks loose and fluid. It's just about kind of timing things up. Clearly, Sandy is still trying to figure out how to do that. So I think this is a really important addition to the Marlins rotation, not just because of the fact that he is one of the best young pitchers in the game, but this team has been kind of dead in the water. Like the vibes have been low. It's been tough to watch at points over the last week. And I think bringing in one of the best young arms in the game back into the rotation there, I think is going to get you going a little bit. But also, if Eury's throwing well, it's even more of a reason, I think, for the Marlins to just feel comfortable moving one or two of those arms in that rotation, knowing going into next year, they've got Eury, who can headline that rotation, especially if they ultimately end up, holding on to Sandy.
And Eury really is one of the best young pitchers in the game. In case you forgot, in 2023, pitched to a 3.15 ERA, started 19 games, 91 innings, struck out 108 batters, which resulted in a 29% strikeout rate,
As a
averaging
20-year-old.
as a 20-year-old, averaging 98 miles an hour with the fastball, and both his slider, curveball, and changeup. He had a whiff rate above 46% on all three of his secondaries. So it's 98 with three potentially elite breaking balls and off-speed pitches at 20.
Yeah.
But again, he is recovering from Tommy John, so I wouldn't expect to see that right out of the gate. He's going to need a couple of starts to settle back in, and once he does, we're going to see fireworks.
Yeah, he's going to remind people. And that's why I wanted to talk about him. It's just, it's so easy to forget when you don't see a guy for a season and a half or whatever it may be. But to be as tall and towering as he is and have the command that he has, like that's the part that I think people may forget, because he may walk a few extra guys as he gets back from such a long layoff, which is the most common side effect of something like this, where yeah, he may not be totally dialed in on the locations and the release point, but this is a guy that when he is right and when he was right, was filling up the strike zone and getting better and better and better at doing it before he went down. So I'm just so pumped to see him back on the mound. And it's just nice, again, from a Marlins perspective. There's not a lot of players right now that are, I think, captivating enough or transcendent enough for fans of other teams to tap in. You're tapping in, at least for a little bit of a Eury Perez start right now. So I think that's a really positive side of it for the Marlins front as well. And again, he's just a joy to watch on the mound.
So my last thing to wrap this up, I'm curious if you can answer this. The top 100 update just came out, and we're also going to be referencing the top 300 draft prospects, which you can find on justbaseball.com. And we're also, of course, going to be going over some of those on this episode when talking about the best prospects in college baseball. If Eury Perez was still a prospect, and the only reason I'm asking this is because he is just 22 years old and he has 91 innings under his belt. I know using those qualifications, he probably would have graduated by now, and obviously he's not on the top 100. But the reason I ask is because he is still just 22 years old. Where would he rank among the best pitching prospects in baseball?
One. It's a good question though, because like I love Bubba. Chase Burns just got promoted to AAA, by the way, in the Reds organization. And then you have Andrew Painter, who's also still extremely young, coming off of TJ and electrifying as well. But it's got to be one, because what you see from him already from a velocity standpoint at such low effort, filling up the zone. You mentioned the whiff rate across all of the secondaries as well. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I don't think any of these guys, and they all have unique arsenals. I think most of them can mix in a third pitch that is impressive, but I don't know if it's as reliably consistent as the bag of offerings that Perez already had at 20. So now you think about what he's going to just continue to build off of and what he can have there. I would go with him still as just clearly the most talented player when you're looking at what he can ultimately be, but also, what he can do right now. So that puts it in perspective, though. It would be a really interesting conversation of him versus Roman, who hit a 497-foot home run the other day, Roman Anthony. So, like, that would be an interesting conversation. But in terms of the pitchers, I'd go Eury above them all.
And then on top of it, he's 6'8", 220. Just a mountain of a man as well. And he's going to continue to develop, right? Yep. He's going to put on muscle because, again, when he came up, he was 20. Now he's 22. I'm so excited to watch him tonight. Yep. Again, you're hearing this on Tuesday, so after the fact, you will be, hopefully you watched Eury Perez return back from the IL. All right, let's move on to our next topic, Lamonte Wade Jr. It's so funny. The other day, I was on with Jack. We were doing the weekend roundup, and Wade didn't play much in that series where the Giants played the Marlins. But I wanted to bring it up because it was so shocking how bad that he has been this year. So he was DFA'd by the Giants and then traded to the Angels for a player to be named later or cash. And then the corresponding move for the Angels was DFAing right-hander Michael Darrell Hicks to make room on the 40-man. From 2021 to 2024, he had a 115 OPS plus with the Giants. He even got a down ballot vote for MVP back in 2021. But this year, he's hitting 167 with a 59 WRC plus and a negative 1.1 FWAR. And that's what I was bringing up to Jack. And I was like, I know this doesn't really relate to the series, but he did play one game, and I can't believe how bad he has been. Because I just went over the stats, but even the last 2 years, right? 119 WRC plus 120, guy who consistently gets on base, pretty decent hitter, never really was much of a defender, but you wanted his bat in the lineup.
Yep.
And the Giants have been kind of mediocre over the past couple of seasons, but he was still batting third. He was hitting leadoff, like he was a main piece for them. And now he's DFA'd and traded to the Angels for a player to be named later. What was your first reaction when you saw that?
Well, of course. Just anybody's cast-offs that the Angels are going to take a shot, whether it's a failed high-end prospect or a player who shockingly hit a wall. But my question, the reason why I wanted to talk about it on the show is, like, is there anything left in the tank here? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I struggle to believe that he just hit this wall at 31. And I know he's had some ebbs and flows even over the last couple of years. In the second half, he wasn't as good as he was even in the first half. But I look at the contact rates and everything, that all looks fine. It's just the quality of contact is significantly diminished. So I don't know if there's something up physically or whatever it may be. But I don't know. I was curious what you thought, because Buster Posey, he was talking about it too. He's, Lamonte Wade's like a friend of his. It was a really hard decision to make. But I think, one, it shows that, this isn't going to be one of those situations where it's just friends and family. They're trying to win ball games here, and I respect that move. But also, Buster Posey probably had to be pretty positive that it just wasn't going to happen this year, or at least he just wasn't worth the roster spot for them. So that's where I'm like, man, is he a change of scenery candidate, or is something just totally off here at this point with Lamonte Wade?
So I'm really glad you asked the question, because as soon as he got DFA'd, I was like, all right, yeah, I understand why. He has been just terrible this year. And when I watch his at-bats, the plate discipline is still there, but whenever he makes contact, it's soft. Nothing's coming off the bat hard, nothing with authority. And then I listened to that presser with Buster Posey talking about what you just said about how he's his friend, and it was a really tough decision and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, if a guy like Buster Posey believed that he had just hit a wall and that he was eventually going to get out of it, I feel like they don't DFA him, especially because it's not like the Giants, even though they've been so good this year.
They're not swimming in bats.
It's not because of their offense. It's been because Robbie Ray has been incredible. Logan Webb is one of the best pitchers in the league, that they have other good starters, and then a bullpen that is fantastic. And they can swing it a little bit, but it's been because of the pitching. So why would you DFA a guy who you think eventually will break out of this? And I know it's mean, but who signed him? The Angels.
Yeah.
Do I trust the Angels know what they're doing? Not particularly. So I read the tea leaves. Buster Posey, his former teammate, was the one to DFA him on a team that could use a bat or two, to a team that is not necessarily at the top of the list of teams that can unlock stuff for bats.
They picked Dom Smith, right? Like they
Yep.
said, we're going to roll with what Dom Smith can potentially give us instead of Lamonte Wade trying to get right, which I think is fascinating. I think part of it was, hey, you're not going to play as much. And, probably feels like he owes it to him to maybe try to pursue an opportunity where he's going to play a little bit more. But I think that also is telling in itself, right? Like, you're already going to relegate this guy. I know he's been horrible. So it's maybe looking that bad for them. They've got Bryce Eldridge already up to AAA, knocking on the door. And I think they wanted to clear the pathway a little bit there with Lamonte Wade, just kind of just getting out of town. Now it's Dom Smith as a placeholder. And I'd imagine that they're going to be ready to call up Bryce Eldridge, their top prospect, probably sooner rather than later, as long as he looks relatively comfortable.
So I kind of get why the Angels did it when you were talking about potentially getting more playing time for Lamonte Wade. But I don't really get it. Jorge Soler, Mike Trout, Taylor Ward, Joe Adell, and Nolan Shanwell.
I was thinking about that.
They're going to fill up your DH, the first base spot, and 3 outfield spots. Is he just going to be a bench bat for off days for those guys because
Yes.
Jorge Soler already playing in the outfield is not exactly ideal. You'd rather him play DH, but you have Mike Trout. So there's no real corner outfield DH spot for him unless you're resting a guy. You want Nolan Shanwell at first base. I don't really get it.
Yeah, I think it's just, hey, we'll take a flyer. Also, this
Yeah.
outfield defense could be really bad.
Oh, yeah.
With Joe Adell playing center now, and then you're either. I know they've started to get Trout some more reps back out there again, but yeah, this could be a tough defensive situation there. And it's just funny, like now they've got Chris Taylor. I would love to see him get going, but what are the odds of that? Like they're just kind of just taking shots on different vets and hoping that they can get it going a bit. But to your point, I think it's probably a bench role. So it's not like he's gonna be getting much more consistent reps at the end of the day. Like, yeah, Shanwell has been one of your better hitters. He's probably going to be a guy that's going to be in the lineup every single day. And with Trout taking that DH spot and or Soler taking that DH spot, it does seem like it's more of just a bench role for him, which, I mean, you look at the bench right now. I don't know if Scott Kingery is even worth holding a bench spot at this point for them. I don't. That could be a guy that they end up, moving aside sooner rather than later. Same with like a Kevin Newman as well. So maybe he could be an upgrade to their bench. But yeah, it is kind of crazy that he that quickly got to this point of his career where it's you're maybe getting playing time with the Angels.
And I kind of skipped over the last part when you were talking about Bryce Eldridge, clearing a spot for him. Do you think he's going to impact the Giants this season?
He's going to get a chance to for sure. I think he's gonna have an acclimation process though, and like I wouldn't be putting all of my eggs in the basket if I'm the Giants of like, oh, Eldridge is gonna get up here and carry us, or be able to hit the ground running. Like he still needs to work on the approach a little bit. There's some swing and miss in his game, but the reality is compared to Lamonte Wade and Dom Smith, I mean Eldridge has 70 grade power. So if you're gonna deal with some inconsistent results, I'd rather it be a guy that can put it in McCovey Cove with ease. So I think he's a guy that's going to get up there and make an impact to a degree. I just don't know how consistent that impact will be because, again, the chase is a little high, the whiff is a little high. I love him long term as a prospect, but this is a 20-year-old, right? So a 20-year-old 6'7" left-handed hitter. So I think they're looking at him though and saying internally like this might be one of our best options short term. And if he responds well to AAA, where yes, the ball's going to fly out there, but also the pitchers are going to be a little bit more advanced and try to get you to chase and get you out. I think we'll see him up there sooner rather than later.
All right, let's move over to our next topic. Forrest Whitley of the Astros got DFA'd. So Forrest Whitley was drafted 17th overall back in 2016 to the Astros and became the top pitching prospect in baseball at one point. But in his big league career, he has thrown 10 and 2/3 to an 8.44 ERA, with 7 1/3 coming this year, pitching to an ERA over 12, and 3 1/3 last year, where he actually didn't allow a run, but he did walk 8 per 9. Aram, what happened to Forrest Whitley?
It's a wonderful question. And I don't know if anybody will ever fully be able to answer, but this is one of those guys where like you look at it year over year over year. He's been on as many prospect lists as just about anybody. If you look at Pipeline, in 2017, he was the 84th ranked prospect. In 2018, he was the number 9 ranked prospect. In 2019, he was the number 7 ranked prospect. In 2020, it was 19. And then in 2020, it was 41. That's a lot of times being still on a top prospect list, right? So I think injuries definitely played a large part in this whole equation for Forrest Whitley. But I do feel like there were some mental barriers there too, and I know that there were points in time where Whitley, from what I understand, didn't always see eye to eye with the Astros years ago, and how they wanted to go about his development. And I think there were some hurdles on that side of things too. And then he's hurt, so then coming back from injury, you still don't maybe see eye to eye development wise, and it just makes it really hard for a player like that to be able to reach their potential. But ultimately, I think command was still a big part of it. Never fully, I think, came together for him. But because of how good he was in the early going of his professional career, I mean, this was a guy that in 2017, I mean, this is why he was one of the top prospects in the game and viewed by some as the top pitching prospect. Between low A as a 19-year-old, low A, high A, and double A in 2017, He struck out 143 and 92 in the thirds innings while pitching to a 2.83 ERA in some hitter-friendly environments. And I think at that point, then he goes to the Arizona Fall League the next year, puts up some good numbers while when he was healthy but missed some time. He became this, it seemed like can't miss arm. But then the command just continued to wane and wane, and then you dealt with some of the other issues, and then I'm sure the COVID, holdover didn't help. And you have a player here that was in the organization for going on 10 years. So I think it's fascinating. Like the talent was so tantalizing that they were still not going to give up on him through all the injuries, all the frustrations, not seeing eye to eye for a decade. And then we finally hit a point here where it just wasn't happening for him at the big league level in about 5 appearances, and they finally cut bait. But 10 years almost where you're saying, well, he's too valuable to give up. We got to give him a shot. We got to give him a shot. I think it's a testament to his talent, but it's also a testament to how disappointing the outcome is.
So disappointing. I mean, I personally, right, I'm not a prospect guru or anything, but I love to pay attention to the first rounders. And I remember watching a little bit about him early on when he got drafted. I think I was either high school senior or college freshman. And it was a big fastball. It was a bunch of different breaking balls. And I thought to myself, this guy's going to be good. And then hits the ground running in the minors, right? I know he was getting hurt, but he looked like a good pitcher. And so
still just 27, which is nuts.
It ain't over yet.
No,
so
it ain't.
What I was getting to is my question is, you're much better at obviously analyzing prospects than I am. And you've been doing this for a long time. And you talked about different publications, how long they had Whitley on their lists. Were you ever fully in on him? And how long did it take before you were like, yeah, everyone's still keeping him on there, but maybe not me? Or were you aligned with them and you were like, yeah, I was putting him on these lists till the wheels fell off?
It was pretty close to the latter. I mean, when you were looking at what he was doing in 2017, 2018, I mean, it was the fastball, but it was always the room for more because he was tall and lanky, and at the time was kind of filling up the zone really well. The changeup and the early going was so advanced for him too that you're like, okay, he's got this hard cutter. The 2 breaking balls as well off of that are going to continue to come along. Like the conversation around him was like, you could have 4 above average to plus pitches here and more velo with the fastball on the way. So like it was definitely a guy that I was 100% buying into the hype on. But then I think once you got to the other side of the COVID layoff, and then we didn't really see him throw till 2022, and then once we saw him throw, then like that's where it was started to get to a point where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to happen, unfortunately. And that's where things started to go south somewhat quickly there in terms of his prospect value and the shine there. But we've seen a lot of these kind of quote unquote failed prospects or players who got off to great starts in their big league career and injuries came along or whatever it may be and turned into decent relievers. And I wouldn't rule that out with the Forrest Whitley. Like in short spurts this year, even he's averaging 97 miles per hour with the fastball. He's trying to figure out which of the secondaries are going to work best for him. It's a totally different arsenal than he once had. He doesn't even really throw a changeup anymore. But I do wonder if Whitley gets claimed by somebody or, somebody ends up signing him and gets him right and makes some adjustments, and all of a sudden, it would not shock me at all if he became, a nasty relief arm. I would not rule that out just yet.
Somebody's going to pick him up.
Oh, yeah.
And we're rooting for you, Forrest Whitley. All right, let's move on to our last headline before we get into top MLB draft prospects in the College World Series. So Bob Nightingale reported Sunday morning that the Pirates are receiving trade interests on Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. He's making a little over $6 million this year, and he's putting together a solid season. He's hitting .299 with a 103 WRC plus with 9 steals. I can imagine people listening to this, seeing this as one of the headlines, thinking to themselves, why are they discussing IKF? Right? Those people probably haven't turned on a Pirates game, and I understand why. You want to go watch Paul Skeens and the rest, you're like, but IKF is having a pretty good season, and he's valuable because he can play a bunch of different positions. He's not going to make major headlines when he gets traded over to your team, but if he's playing like this, he could become kind of a fan favorite. The issue is, we were discussing this before we press the record button, where the hell is he going? Because you look at all the teams that are likely buying, do they really need an Isaiah Kiner-Falefa? And even if they only kind of need an Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, is it worth sending a prospect over to Pittsburgh in order to bring him over? I don't know. The one team that I thought might make some sense, and I know you have an idea as well for a different one, is Seattle. And it's just because right now you got Williamson at third and you got Cole Young at second. And I know they have Donovan Solano. I know he's played, some first in a pinch. He could play other places. And they have Dylan Moore, who is a great utility guy. But just because the current infield is so young, could they indulge another veteran going over there? But that's my best pitch. And I don't even think it's that good of a pitch.
It's funny. I wanted to talk about IKF because I feel like there's a lot of teams that could really just use a close to league average hitter who could play a good shortstop or move all over the diamond.
True.
But all of those teams are like tweeners right now, where it's like, if you're the Braves, though, why not do that yesterday? You're not going to have to give up much, and that upgrades your shortstop situation pretty significantly. Like that's one where I just think that could be a no-brainer for you. Milwaukee's one too, where you want Joey Ortiz to get his reps and everything, but Milwaukee's getting a 45 WRC plus from the shortstop position, negative 0.2 F4. I just think about that and I'm like, I know they never buy really, but this could be a scenario where the prospect return wouldn't hurt you at all. You already got a nice little haul, or you already gave up a little bit for Quinn Priester, right? It was a pretty expensive haul, relatively speaking. That they seem not to be totally afraid to buy here in certain spots, and that could be a guy that maybe takes some of the pressure off of Ortiz, though you still want to see him get right. But if he does, then okay, still you got a solid utility guy that can move around. And then I was also thinking about Detroit. I mean, you've got Javi Baez there, and I understand that you've got Trey Sweeney, but I had concerns about Sweeney going into this year. I think he's been not a guy that you can really bank on playing every day. Baez is volatile. Like this is just another player that could move around and give you some defensive value all around the diamond. But I feel like with the Braves on life support, like why not make this move yesterday? You're never going to be pissed that even if the season continues to unravel, whatever you have Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and you're not going to be pissed about it. I don't know why a team like that wouldn't be all over this.
Yeah, I guess they might just be in the bucket of like, we don't want to give away any assets for anything because we're not very good.
Yeah, and he is expiring, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Is like the Braves. How
They
often
want
are
to
they
take on
trading for guys
6
who
mil.
are expiring?
They want
Yeah,
to take on 6 million. That's
the
that,
Brewers may not.
but I'm glad that we brought up this report because I'm actually like, which teams are? Like, I don't think the Brewers are calling them, even though that makes sense. I don't think the Braves are calling them. I don't think the Mariners are calling them. So who's calling them, Bob Nightingale? Who wants to take on 6 million? And again, has nothing really against Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. You just don't get much control with him. And a lot of these maybe it is the Tigers. Because I could see that, right? You're not really sold on Javier Baez being your true shortstop, and Trey Sweeney just hasn't taken the job full force yet. They do have a couple of utility guys also, so you'd probably bring in IKF to be your shortstop. So then what kind of happens to either Sweeney or Baez? Because they're obviously going to keep Baez with how much money they're paying him. Does that mean Trey Sweeney just goes to AAA? And is
Yeah,
that worth then trading for IKF? That's it's one thing about the report, and he's a decent enough player that we want to talk about it, but I just don't really understand the report because I don't even know who would be calling.
maybe he's acquired just as a utility guy too, which is then interesting as well. And I mean, it's still a valuable piece since you can move him around in a lot of different spots, but he's been playing shortstop and that's about it with a couple starts at third base. But yeah, when you look across the landscape all of a sudden, it starts to become difficult to see a team that maybe would be incredibly eager to add him. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. Like they're fielding calls, but then you look around and say, well, yeah, who are those teams that could potentially be looking to add a player like that? I was thinking maybe the Red Sox, but that would also require them, cutting into some playing time of some young guys. But I think just having somebody that's defensively versatile in the infield like that could make sense. But again, that's another team that they may be sellers. So did you want to add and then end up selling anyways for a
Yeah.
rental piece? Like it seems like most of the teams that would be interested may not even fully be buyers. So that's where I'm a little bit just fascinated by the whole aspect of it.
This deadline is going to be really interesting. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Because we have good teams theoretically that could become sellers.
Yep.
Braves, D-backs, potentially Red Sox. not a lot of people. I mean, I said, and I think we were all kind of aligned on not being very high on the Orioles this year, but
Yeah,
none of us.
super high on the D-backs and the Red Sox.
Yeah, but even on the Orioles point, like none of us predicted they'd be this bad. We didn't think they'd be like definite deadline sellers.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to do deadline coverage both in our Discord, and of course here on the Just Baseball show. Before we get to the college baseball draft prospects, Aram's going to discuss a little bit about our partner Loop.
Yeah. Well, if you like sports cards, and obviously you know I do, I think Loop is a great app for you. It's exactly what you've been waiting for. I've actually used it already plenty of times to buy into breaks, buy some cards and individual cards, and I'll tell you a little bit about it and just how it all works. But Loop exclusively partners with real vetted brick and mortar card shops or individual breakers who are looking to do serious volume. You don't have to deal with mystery sellers streaming breaks from their bedrooms. Loop connects you with trusted real world card shops that actually care about the hobby, not hobbyists in their garage. These are licensed businesses that rely on their reputation, meaning your cards are in good hands. You'll never have to worry about tampered packs or your cards going missing. Again, what you see is what you get. All shops undergo a thorough vetting process by Loop to ensure safety, transparency, and professionalism. Loop is a one-stop shop for collectors, whether you're joining a live break, buying personals, or snagging a rare single from the marketplace. It's fast and easy. No auctions, no haggling, just clean listings and a few taps to check out, or you can jump right into a live stream for a break and buy into that spot as well. All of the card shop owners and the breakers are so cool as well. One of them is on there. Hit Seekers is one of the shops that we hung out with out by the Cincinnati Red Stadium in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. They break on Loop. We're going to potentially be doing a co-live stream with them, so we'll keep you posted on that. But I'll be hanging out in there talking about the prospects and the product. They'll be ripping, and that's going to be a really fun aspect of this thing as well. But it's really fun because you have the social element. You're not just buying, you're part of that live interactive stream. And again, we're going to be making it even more fun and interactive with our friends at Hitseekers soon. But you can chat with the shop owners, talk to other collectors, feel the energy in the room when a big card gets pulled. It's the closest thing to being in a card shop or at a card show, all from your phone. Sometimes it's a slow day in baseball. I will pull it up on my phone, have some fun in there, talk to some people that are really into the hobby, and try to get some nice new cards. So that's something that I really enjoy. I think you will as well. And Loop is giving you an offer to try it out right now. If you download the app or go over to loop.cards, that's LOUPE.cards/justBB, that's JUSTBB, you can get $10 in credit to your first purchase over $50. That's LOUPE.cards/justBB for $10 in credit in your first purchase over $50. If you do it, let us know what you pull or what you buy. I always love to see what everybody's picking up cards wise.
I'm not as big of a collector as you are, but I have used Loop before and I love it. And I think the biggest reason why is it just feels like a professional marketplace. Like you already mentioned it too, where I'm not logging on and it's like, does this person actually know what they're talking
Are
about?
they going to ship me my cards?
Are
Yeah.
they going to ship me my cards? Because there are plenty of places with new streamers or anything like that. And some people, you know, have the best interests of their people in mind and some people don't. But on
Yep.
Loop, I feel like wherever I go, I'm going to get a good experience. So that's why we definitely highly recommend using Loop. You can find the link in the episode description, correct?
Yes, you can. And again, that code is LOUPE.cards/justBB if you also want to put it in the URL, but the link will be in the episode description as well. Perfect example, though, of the people in there. Our friends at Hitseekers, I had so much fun with them. And again, stay tuned. We'll be doing a potential, live break with them as well.
And now it's time for our first break. Breaking news. We were supposed to go straight into the college draft prospects. Aram,
Oh, I just saw it.
welcome to the show, Roman Anthony.
Oh, it's about time. It's about time.
Talk to
That's
us.
awesome.
First
Yeah.
reaction.
Hey, we had him as the number one prospect in baseball at the preseason, even including Roki Sasaki in that conversation. That was not as much of an indictment on Sasaki as it was credit to Roman Anthony, who, I mean, has the power and approach combination to be a monster who can jolt this Red Sox team. And it makes sense that they're doing it right now. Unfortunately, it happens because Wilyer Abreu got hurt, which almost like pisses me off because it's like, if Wilyer didn't get hurt, would we still be waiting? Like, I don't know, but whatever. Let's get happy about what's happening now. Because the other day, and I think this really, I don't know if one individual batted ball can put more pressure on a team, but when your number one prospect, who everybody thinks is taking way too long to get up to get an opportunity, like he's already earned it, you just haven't done it yet. It's a home run, 497 feet. You know that it's just going to go mega viral, and everybody's going to just keep pounding the table and keep saying, hey, why have we not seen Roman up there yet? The Red Sox may say that it's, they want to see him get a little bit more consistent against changeups specifically and secondaries in general, but this guy against fastballs this year, 397, 532, 740 slash line. And if you dial it up against velo, which is, I think, the most important thing, right? Like he's going to be seeing velo even more than he was seeing it in AAA. Against 93 plus, he's hitting 350, 500, 591. And against 95 plus, he's 5 for 11 this season with 2 home runs and a double. Now, you might say, okay, well, if those numbers are that good, what does the secondary, numbers look like? How is he performing against those? Could be a little bit better, no doubt about it, but it's not bad. He has a 715 OPS against secondary. So that's going to be the thing to monitor here, right? But the reason why I'm not as concerned about it is his chase rate against secondaries is 17%. So he never chases. He demolishes fastballs. He'll crush hangers in the zone. And that's probably going to be the last part of his development. But the reality was he was not going to fix that or find that last notch in AAA because he didn't need to. He had a 913 OPS. He wasn't seeing enough good secondary stuff to make him have to make an adjustment. So this is great. He's going to get to the big leagues. He's going to have that opportunity to make that adjustment when it comes. But if he pummels fastballs, he's going to be able to be successful, especially with his approach, 17% chase rate overall as well. And this guy, with the way he goes to all fields, he's going to play pepper with that green monster. Just watch the amount of hits. I'm calling it now. I think his first hit is a backside shot off the monster is going to be my prediction.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I'm just curious about this. He's the number 1 overall prospect in baseball. Where does he rank among other number 1 overall prospects on your list? And I know I'm putting you right on the spot. He just got announced. So, the guys that come to mind, you may forget one or anything like that. But just ballpark figure, where would he kind of sit within the bet? Not just the best prospects right now. He's obviously number 1. I'm talking about over the years of your lists.
Mm-hmm.
Where would he rank among your number 1 overall guys?
So when we had Elly De La Cruz number 1 at the time, I know we were the only ones that had Elly number 1, and it was a little bold there because there was the risk reward side of it. I think Roman would be higher ranked at this present moment because of the track record and because of what he's done, and just the floor is perceived to be higher given that his approach is so sound and you have such a large sample of upper level success. So at the time, I would say Roman ranks ahead a little bit. But then when we had James Wood as a number 1 prospect, I think I may have at the time leaned towards James Wood still because of what you currently had and then what you could potentially have. It was kind of the balance of the two. But I think you could still make a really strong case that Roman, because of the track record, also edges out James Wood a little bit. I thought Wood is kind of a hybrid of the two with a little bit more of the track record with what he had done, but he was also not that far removed from 30% strikeout rate in Double-A. So I'd probably say he's ahead of him too. You'd probably have to go back to the Corbin Carroll, Gunnar Henderson top 100s to have a prospect that the floor and ceiling was so high combined that he was this highly regarded.
Interesting. So it would probably be Carroll and Gunnar, maybe a little bit above him, and then Roman, and then he would kind of slot behind Elly De La Cruz and James Wood. So it'd be
Just
like,
because of the risk.
yeah, no, that makes sense. So it'd be when you're ranking prospects, Corbin Carroll, Gunnar Henderson, Roman Anthony, Elly De La Cruz, James Wood. Maybe not in that exact order, but around that.
And I would say it's really close with the latter 3. And then the other 2 is just because of what they had done, with Corbin and Gunnar, like it just, you had that balance of floor and ceiling. But yeah, I think with Roman, what he is now just continued to show and doing it now at the upper levels for parts of 2 seasons and really 2 full seasons. If you go back to the start of last year in Double-A, he's getting closer and closer to this point of, I think, probably being in that conversation with Corbin and gunner, because you do have that high ceiling of a guy that has a 60% hard hit rate and a 90th percentile exit velocity of 110, which is marks that now Ellie and James Wood have hit and are getting into a little bit more, especially Wood. But yeah, I think with Roman, though, you do look at it and say the ground ball rate's a little bit high. Like there are some similar, like, will he be able to fully get into it the same way? And, the other two had the athleticism. I think it's super, super close. But to put it in perspective, he's right on par with those guys and just behind, I think a Corbin and a Gunner based on what they were able to build in terms of the floor ceiling athleticism across the board conversation.
Eury Perez just got called up. Well, not just called up. He's back from rehab, and now we have Roman Anthony, two of the best young players, or we expect, in Major League Baseball. All right, you ready for the top MLB draft prospects in the College World Series?
Yes.
All right. So we're going to go team by team. And right now we're looking at the teams that are going to Omaha: Arkansas, LSU, Oregon State, Coastal Carolina, UCLA, Arizona, Louisville. And then today, again, we're recording on Monday. Duke and Murray State are currently playing to see who will, punch their ticket to Omaha. So what Aram did was include his top draft prospect on Duke. And unfortunately, let's just start with Murray State in case they win. You just didn't see any guys kind of at the top of these draft boards because, again, on justbaseball.com, we have a top 300. So for each of these college teams, even Arm wrote down 5 or 6 guys. All of them have draft prospects. We're just going to be highlighting the guys who are likely to go in the first few rounds. So Murray State has a few guys who will get drafted this season.
But yeah, potentially,
Yeah.
and it's just in terms of being in the first 5 rounds or whatever, probably not. What's fun about this team, though, it's a bunch of older guys, bunch of seniors that are playing really well. They had a great season, and as we're recording this, we don't know if they won or lost yet, but if they won, I mean, holy crap, that's really, really special in the NIL era to have a team like Murray State make it, to the College World Series. But if not, I mean, Duke's a good team too. So with Murray State, I think a couple players just to look at if they do get there, but also just to give them their shine after a year that was so impressive. I think a guy that would probably be like a senior sign, get a shot as maybe an undrafted free agent, would be John Hogart. He was a 5th-year senior, but he launched 20 home runs this year. He hit 337 with an 1145 OPS, and he's just put up above average exit velocities for the last 3 seasons. So I think that's a guy that may just get a shot as a senior sign. Pitching wise, dude, the average pitching velocity like on their team was 88.6 miles per hour, which is kind of nuts. So they may not really have any really draft prospects as pitchers are related. There's a guy named Graham Kellum who I think may get like a undrafted free agent opportunity. He was a Ball State kid where a lot of big league talent or professional talent has come out of there on the pitching front. And had a really nice season this year. We struck out 33% of batters, but he throws 90. So I don't know. But I think offensively, you're looking at John Hogart, and then Carson Garner is another guy that hit the ball really hard this year, hit 17 homers, and put up an OPS over 1,000.
All right, let's start with Arkansas because they have 4 guys in our top 300 that are in the top 50, right? So they have actually 7 players on our top 300, but again, 4 in the top 45 because Gage Wood is ranked at number 45. But I want to start at the top with Wahiva Aloy, shortstop prospect out of Arkansas. He's ranked number 21 on our list. When I watch Aloy, the first thing that pops out to me is power.
Yeah.
It's power to all fields. I mean, this guy is like a freaking, he's all muscly and he can hit it to all directions. And I think he can play short, but he's so big and he's not like super tall, but he just looks like a man out there.
Yeah.
Potentially moving over to third base. Can he play a good shortstop? Is that why his draft stock is so high? Because people expect him to stay at short? Or is it just the bat is so incredible that regardless if he plays short or third base, he's going in the first round?
I think it's the power potential paired with a shot to stick it short, because then if he moves off a short, it's a solid third, and he can absolutely hit the ball hard enough and tap into enough power to carry the offensive responsibilities that come with the hot corner. So I think that's a big part of it. He's definitely stiff. And I think that's going to be the thing to monitor. He's stiff and aggressive in the box. So I think that's the drawback and why he could slip to the back end of the first round. But there's absolutely a guy that if your team's drafting in the middle to the back end of the first round, could be a target for, one of your favorite teams. But also somebody that has the ability to carry this offense if he gets hot, especially in a place where, in Omaha, the ball it's flying more in recent years, but it's a little bit more difficult to hit it out of there and compared to some of the other places that these teams play. Eloy's already hit home runs like upwards of 450 feet this year. Like he can hit some tape measure shots, 112 plus miles per hour on multiple occasions this season. It's about the swing and miss, but he's almost surely going to be a first round pick.
Next up, again in Arkansas, he's been his up the middle duo, but he can also play some outfield. Charles Davalin, again on Arkansas, 5'9", 190, but he hit 10 bombs at Florida Gulf Coast. Then he went over to Arkansas, and he's been displaying that power again. He's already eclipsed 110-mile-an-hour exit velo. Again, I am reading off our top 300 on justbaseball.com, so make sure to check that out. Also walking more than he struck out, but it's power to all fields, but it's a tiny guy, but he's got a lot
Yeah.
of muscle.
Well, and he's got the feel to hit too. I think this is a really underrated prospect in the conversation here, and who could potentially bolster his draft stock even more with an impressive showing out there in Omaha. Where I mean, in zone contact wise, he's above 90% this year. He's kind of an outslug to exit velocities type, where he's going to backspin baseballs and generate a little bit more carry than you'd expect, but the exit velocities may not jump off of the page. But then every once in a while, yeah, he'll flash that 110, where he's getting the most out of that frame. There's some defensive versatility there. They've played him mostly at second, but he can play a little infield. They plugged him in center a bit. But this is a guy that I do think could play his way into the first round just on the floor. And that's the interesting part of this draft is you could see some maybe high risk, high reward guys like Eloy, or like a Davalin who is probably higher floor, lower ceiling, but a great chance to climb through the minor leagues quickly.
Next up, Zach Root, left-handed pitcher for Arkansas. He is ranked number 36 on the big board. And even if people aren't following college baseball at all, you might have just seen this on your social media feed. Zach Root and Andrew Fisher, the first baseman for Tennessee, got into a little bit of a scuff. Andrew Fisher was swinging out of his shoes, and there was a lot of staring going back and forth. And then he got him to ground into a double play, even got him to strike out as well, was talking mad shit, getting fired up. It was just that classic rivalry that was awesome. But he's a good lefty, and it's an interesting delivery.
It is an interesting delivery. There's like some hesitation. He leans back. Like the arm action is funky for sure, but it seems to help him hide the ball well. And yeah, I think there was at one point where he was the hitter was talking trash to one of the fans out there. So like Root dialed it back and like I mean I think he threw the hardest pitch he had thrown all year, running it up to 96, I believe, to get him out. So it's mostly low 90s. I would say low to mid. It's like 92 to 94. He'll touch a 5. I think he touched a 6 to strike him out. But a lot of ground balls, good feel for the secondaries across the board. This is the kind of guy that in Omaha, can pitch to contact, keep the pitch count down, and get deep into an outing pretty quickly. It's also a guy that I think you feel really good about taking in the second round as just that pitchability lefty who can, climb through the minors pretty quickly, get ground balls, and has a feel for 4 pitches.
Next up, Gage Wood, righty, again from Arkansas. On our big board, he is ranked number 45. When I watch Gage Wood, I think fastball. I mean, he gets up there to 97. It's a big-time arm, but he's not a big guy. He's only 6 foot, but he is 205 pounds. What do you see when you watch him?
I mean, he's got some loud stuff. It's kind of it's funny, like with these Arkansas players, it's kind of back and forth in terms of the type of player. Wood, it's high octane stuff. You can get up to the upper 90s, and then it's got carry too. I mean, he's getting some run and ride to it. That's allowed him to overwhelm hitters within the zone. This is a guy that, I mean, if he's hot and he's able to throw, he's an impressive arm for them. And I think he really, really stood out in the last one where he went 6 innings, 13 strikeouts. And again, if this is a guy that they can really unleash there and stretch out, I think he was a little banged up earlier in the season, or they were managing his innings. Like he can absolutely piggyback off of a Root and be a scary 1-2 punch game 1 and 2.
All right, let's move over to LSU, and we're going to start with Cade Anderson, lefty from LSU, ranked number 6 on our big board, and the third best overall pitcher, just behind Jamie Arnold. from Florida State, who just got eliminated by Oregon State, and then Seth Hernandez, a righty in the prep ranks. Cade's a big time lefty. And do you
Yeah.
agree with Tyler, who created our again top 300, that he is the third best overall pitcher? Is he better than Liam Doyle?
It's interesting because, I think you're projecting long term, and I could see a lot to be excited about with the Cade Anderson, but all of a sudden, I think Doyle is really making a strong case here to uh, be one of the best arms in this class. I think they're right there, and even just with the way that Anderson throws in the next couple outings, could make a difference. I think Doyle is probably the higher ceiling guy. But then when you look at what Cade Anderson has done this year, in terms of double digit strikeout outings, 10 outings where
Mm.
he has struck out at least 10. It's a verti fastball that takes off at averaging 93 miles an hour this year, but huge in zone whiff numbers because of the vert that he's able to get on that. And then a 70% strike rate on the slider, a 71% strike rate on the changeup, and a 64% strike rate on the curveball. So this is a guy that just has a great chance to be a back end rotation starter at the big league level. But you look at a Liam Doyle, like he has some reliever risk, but he also has a chance to be more than that at the big league level. So it's kind of what's your flavor. But I will say with Anderson, that's a guy that if I took in the middle of the first round or towards the back end of the top 10, I'd sleep pretty soundly just knowing that he can fly through the minor leagues and fill up the zone with four solid pitches.
Next up on LSU, Daniel Dickinson, second baseman. He's ranked number 35. I wasn't shocked to see him at 35. I just wonder what his projection looks like. And I want to throw that over to you because when I've been watching LSU, he just looks like a really good college baseball player.
Yeah.
He's 6 foot 180. He's probably going to play second base. And that's just, we see a lot of those guys where, there's some college baseball players where they're long and they're wiry and you're like, wow, you're dreaming on this player. And then there's other guys where it's like, you're a really good player, but how much better are you actually going to get? Do you agree with me kind of there that
Yeah.
Dickinson feels more of the first, where I'm saying it's a it's a profile that is good, but how much better can he truly be?
Yeah, I am a little bit worried. Like from a pro perspective, like I don't know if I would take him in the top 50. But he's definitely a good college baseball player,
Hmm.
which is clear from his statistical output. And he's
Really
definitely
good.
going to still be a top 3 round pick, most likely. But yeah, I look at the EVs, like hard hit rate of 30% with wood or with metal, excuse me. It's going to be tough to see that translate with Wood, but he does hit the ball in the air pretty consistently. He controls his ABs pretty well. He can give you some solid defensive value at second base. But yeah, I don't know if I see this is another one of those just where the floor is so high that maybe a team is happy to take him in the second round. But I don't know if there's as much to be amped about. Like when I look at LSU, especially if you're looking for like a watching guide, Jared Jones. He's probably may not be as solid of a pro prospect because he's like 114th on our list here. But Jones is a guy that you watch, and if you catch him on the right day, you're going to say, well, oh, he must be going top 15.
Yeah.
But he obviously comes with a ton of whiff, but he has as much power as anybody in minor league or in college baseball.
So let's move over now to Oregon State, and the guy you ID'd. And it's hard not to because he ranks within the top 5 on our big board at number 5. Iva Arquette, shortstop out of Oregon State. Kind of similar to Aloy, but he is 6'5", and he's not quite as muscly. He's a little bit lankier, so you can see definitely some projection. Projecting out his build, he could be a monster, and obviously rakes, power to all fields, really excellent hitter. But I think he could stick it short. I've been watching these Oregon State games, like he moves well. I could see him moving over to third, but he's the guy who I feel good about drafting him as a shortstop and thinking to myself, no, 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 you are a shortstop.
Yeah, no, I think he's got a good shot. And another player, though, if he moves over to third, he's got the power, right? He's got the
Yeah.
power to do it. I definitely like him more than Aloy, and that's the thing everybody does. Clearly, he's significantly higher ranked at this point. But with Arquette, he's going to be an interesting conversation because there's a chance that he could be top 3 pick, and it's going to be more about the financial side, right? Does a team want to go and maybe save some money with an Arquette, or do they go with one of the high ceiling prep guys? But what's interesting with Arquette is you still have a high ceiling here too, right? 90th percentile exit velocity of 106. You mentioned it, like he's 6'5". There's room for more in there, and he can really, really get into some power pull side with the shot to stick it short. Like you're gonna have the same kind of whiff concerns, I think that come with him. And the difference is with an Aloy, at least you're watching him in the SEC a little bit more. Like that is something that's going to come with an Oregon State player here, where he put up great numbers, but you already had some slight whiff concerns. Like, what does that look like against some more consistently challenging competition? I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on him in this College World Series because you're splitting every hair when we're talking about whether he's going 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, because that's probably where he's going to go.
Do you want to talk about Dax Whitney as well? I know, he wasn't quite one of the guys you ID'd, but he just is coming off a dominant performance against Florida State, racked up a bunch of strikeouts against a good lineup. And again, he's a freshman.
He's going to be a first rounder, I think.
And he looks the part too. Like he
Yeah.
looks like a freshman, which gets me excited again because he's going to continue to develop. Already has really good stuff and obviously flash that on a big stage. He's exciting.
He's going to be huge for them in terms of the College World Series side of things too, because it's a guy that's gotten better and better as the years progress, but still learning how to fill up the zone more consistently. We're talking about a 6'4", 190-pound 19-year-old who in his last 4 starts has really, really started to settle in. You mentioned what he did against Florida State, but last 4 starts, 22 innings, he struck out 39. It's a 45% strikeout rate while pitching to a 1.64 ERA. This could be that time where you're watching him and say, oh, I remember watching him as a freshman, and it was kind of his coming out party. And now he's one of the best pitching prospects, that we have in college baseball or in the minor leagues or whatever. Like he does have that kind of ceiling. And at 19 years old here, like this is probably the best freshman arm that you're going to see in the College World Series.
I'm glad that you mentioned that because watching this series, you're watching Dax Whitney and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to remember that I was watching a 19-year-old. And then on the other side of the field, you have Miles Bailey rocketing baseballs. I mean, some of the best power in college baseball. And again, he is also a freshman. So in that series, we were seeing some 2026 guys. But as we continue down Aram's list, we're going to get into potentially a guy who could go 1-1 who will be playing in the College World Series. But before that, Caden Bodine, catcher out of Coastal Carolina. So if you look at our top 300, you'll notice that Bodine is not the number 1 overall catcher. That'd be Ike Irish out of Auburn, but he also can play some outfield. And then you have Luke Stevenson, who's a prep guy. And then you have Caden Bodine. So Bodine, switch hitting catcher, contact is his game, right? It seems it's not huge power. He can get into some power, but it's just consistent contact and putting up great ABs while playing good defense as well.
So it's funny, like this archetype, I think continues to get overlooked. I was just talking about it with Tyler because he's tapped in. I mean, he's seeing all these guys.
Oh yeah,
more than I am. But that was one where I was like, hey, like, what do I have to do to get you to bump Bodine up a little bit? I really like him. I think this is a guy that should. I would consider taking him in the top 20 picks.
Wow.
But I also have. I seem to like this archetype a lot more than some do, but I also think this archetype is becoming significantly more valuable in professional baseball, which is the bat to ball athlete, solid defender, good approach catcher who can progress into more power. Maybe he doesn't, but I think always has a chance to. I look at Cooper Engel in the Guardians org. He went to Clemson, but guy that was, or it's not, in the Guardians org, top 60 prospect for us, is a guy that I think is one of the most underrated players in the minor leagues. He's been absolutely mashing. He's the similar archetype where it's bat to ball, but the power now is ticked up. He looks like a good defender, and I think he's a guy that's going to fly through the minor leagues and has a great chance to be an average regular behind the dish. You're not going to get a star, but how often are we talking about catchers where it's like, oh, he's got big power, but we'll see if he can hit enough, might end up being a backup. Well, what about the guy that really hits, has a great chance to at least be a backup because he's a solid defender, but if he adds just fringe average power, he's comfortably irregular. I think those guys get overlooked, and especially in a world where we can add bat speed a lot more to guys, things like that. Watch this guy hit. I don't know if there's a better bat to ball guy in college baseball right now. So I think this will be a joy to watch if you watch him go about his business in the box from both sides of the plate.
Edgar Caro comp?
That's not a bad one. Honestly, that's not. Caro has a little bit more juice, but he grew into that juice. So you never know.
You never know. Let's talk way too early 2026 number 1 overall pick. Rock Chalowski, outfielder out of UCLA. Put up an OPS close to 1,300, hit 367 this year with 23 home runs. Also has a little bit of speed. You're IDing him as potentially the number one overall pick in 2026?
Yes. Yeah, this guy's a freak. I cannot wait to watch him play. I might be more excited to watch him play than anybody else
Wow.
on this list because yeah, I understand we got to wait to see him play professionally, but I just can't believe the year that he had already, just given how young he is. It's one of the most fluid swings in terms of blending the power and the feel to hit. He's so rotationally explosive while at the same time being adjustable. The approach got better and better as the year progressed, and he's going to get into more power as he matures. Like he just turned 20, so this is a player where I think you look at UCLA talent wise. I don't know if they stack up with some of the other teams in this College World Series. Like I think some of the other teams have a lot more draft talent, that's for sure. Cholowski's going to need to be a guy that I think really steps up in this College World Series, and I think he's got the ingredients to do so. I can't wait to watch him do his thing out there.
Next on the list, out of Arizona, which was a surprise as they took down UNC, and it was surprising to me. I thought UNC was going to be my pick, and I couldn't believe that they lost to Arizona. But there's a reason why, is because they have Brendan Summerhill, number 17 on our big board. They also have Mason White, Andrew or Aaron Walton as well. So they have a couple of big time draft prospects, but Brendan Summerhill is clearly the best of the bunch. I haven't seen a lot of him. So with the other guys, like I've seen a lot of them, but Arizona was just a team that I just didn't really watch much of this
Yeah.
year. So I'm excited to hear from you, the 401, or what is that called? The 401?
411.
411 on Brendan Summerhill. Again,
Yeah.
wordsmith, not a bottle, or I'm a ball knower, not a wordsmith. I even fucked that up.
The bat to ball is great. I think there was some excitement going into this year that he could be a guy that plays his way into the top 10. And unfortunately, the bat to ball, or excuse me, unfortunately, the impact didn't really tick up. If anything, maybe it ticked down slightly in terms of the raw EVs, but the bat to ball did continue to get better. And that's the thing is, so he's clearly hit over power. And there's some athleticism there. You maybe hope that he can play center, but this is a guy that's definitely going to set the tone. Definitely going to see a lot of pitches every AB. He's that prototypical leadoff hitter that should have a great chance to go in the first round. He reminds me a little bit of like the Carson Benj archetype, but again, Benj was hitting the ball a little bit harder. I think has a little bit more power to him, but Summerhill's 6'3", 195. There could be more power as he puts on some more good weight. He is very wiry there. So very fun player, high floor, and another guy that I think, if your team takes him in the back end of the first round, you can feel good about the fact that he's going to probably climb through the minors relatively quickly.
Moving on to Louisville, Patrick Forbes, right-handed pitcher, ranked number 38 on our big board. This is one of my favorite guys on the list. I think this guy's downright disgusting. And again, it starts with the heater. He's touched as high as 100 miles an hour and has plenty of life. It's kind of that low arm slot. He's got a couple of good breaking balls. He's got a changeup as well. He's a big reason why Louisville punched their ticket to Omaha. I'm excited to hear you break him down because he's one of my favorites that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big X factor for them, right? Because he's had some outings where the command gets away from him. I think he even walked 7 at one point against UNC earlier in the season. But then you saw in the last 2 outings where he was dynamite in terms of just helping his team win a ball game, and he gave up 3 earned runs over 11 and 2/3. But he walked 8 in those 2 outings too. So that's going to be the big thing to watch. But in terms of the stuff, yeah, it's as high octane as you're going to see in terms of the velocity and the carry. He'll throw that fastball 65, 70% of the time and
And he
say,
can.
try to hit it.
Yeah.
And guys haven't really hit it that well. So that's the thing to monitor is like, yeah, there's some fastball reliance, but also you could be watching a fastball here that just stands out above just about any others that you see in this College World Series.
And last, but certainly not least, but we're looking at 2026 right now, AJ Garcia, potential first rounder for Duke. I don't know much about him, so I was excited to see you highlight him and learn more about a guy that I don't really know much about.
Yeah, he got off to a slow start. This is one of my, I was shocked because this is one of my favorite swings in college baseball. Um, for whatever reason, slow start, there was a lot of excitement around him, and I think he maybe felt some of that pressure. He's a draft eligible guy next year. I think he will absolutely be a first round pick, and I think has a chance to play his way into the top 10. But after shaking off that slow start, 30 games, the last 30 games for him, not including obviously the one that's happening in the final super regional game, 351, 478, 766 slash line, it's such a sweet swing from the left side, and it's geared for lift. I mean, he does not put the ball on the ground very often, but still finds a balance to make contact consistently while having that lift that he can just generate with so much ease and so much consistency. Above average EVs to go with it. I think he's going to continue to get into more power. This is another guy that I think could have his full-fledged coming out party with the way that he finished the year in Omaha for Duke, and then I think carry that into next year where he could easily be a top 10 pick conversation guy.
Incredible. All right, so that'll do it for the best MLB draft prospects at the College World Series. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode. The best way to support, rate and review, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. We're going to be doing so much draft coverage again in the Discord as well. This is just your starter kit. I know Arm's just going to be absolutely cooking. I'm excited for all these mock drafts that are going to come out as well. I know we already got one up on justbaseball.com. Those will be continually updated as well. But before we go, we promised your top hip hop albums of all time. Let's hear them.
Yeah, this is in terms of just what I enjoy or have been when I go back to listen to the most. Obviously, like there could be some that fit the description of influential or things like that, and I would totally hear that. But I think most of these kind of do both of that. I don't think there's an album that I play and have played more than Illmatic by Nas. That is iconic. That is I think essential in the history of hip hop. Same thing with Aquemini by Outkast. Like I probably go back and play songs from that album every single week. I could probably say the same thing about Get Rich or Die Trying with 50 Cent, another one that I probably play every single week. The College Dropout by Kanye. Like, I don't know if I've ever met somebody who doesn't think that album is fantastic. Good Kid, Mad City would be the same conversation there. I know people would probably say that this is an outlier compared to the rest, but I just have always loved this album. It just takes me back to high school all the time. 2014 Forest Hills Drive. I don't think there's a skip on that album, to be honest. Moron by Schoolboy Q. I should have said that was J. Cole, of course. Oxymoron by Schoolboy Q. I have that vinyl somewhere in my room already as well. JID, The Forever Story. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye. At long last, ASAP might be one of the more underrated albums I think ever by A$AP Rocky. And then one I've been revisiting a lot more lately, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill by Lauryn Hill. Just listen to it. It is wonderful. I think you would really enjoy it.
It's so incredible because your movie takes are horrific and then your music takes are great. Because, whenever I'm in the car with you, let's say we're driving to spring training or we're driving wherever, you're always throwing on hip hop and it's bangers throughout. And it's never like the new bullshit because I have not been much of a music guy.
I know. You're me with movies. That's the thing. You're throwing stones from a glass house. If Travis Scott hums, you're locked in.
No, but here's the thing. It's like if I just told you this is what would piss you off. It'd be like if I told you, what is Nas even talking about? He's just talking over a beat. You'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's what you're with movies. I'm actually just sitting there enjoying it. I'm like, oh, I haven't heard this song, Aram. I'm open to new experiences.
My problem is this. In the movie, things were happening in the movie, right? Like events are transpiring, and then you have a total digression because they needed to, literally, there's people in the barn about to get attacked, let's say, and it's happening in real time. And then all of a sudden, you have this metaphorical cut scene where you have Native Americans dancing, and then people dancing from the 1800s and onward and onward. That technically isn't even actually really happening in the plot.
No, but
so it would be as if I was playing a song and then there were like schizophrenic voices in the back of it, also on top of the song, that had nothing to do with the song. Total digressions.
No, it wasn't a total digression. You're just wrong on that. You're just simply wrong. And I'll explain it to you. So this movie is based on, old stories, myths in the South of how the voices of these blues blues performers were so good that they were able to
summon evil spirits.
I was looking for the right word. Like summon these evil spirits.
Or not evil spirits. It was just spirits in general.
I
was locked in.
And it happened to be these vampires who were coming after him. So what they hear is a sound that is so much better than normal music during that age or ever. And it was illustrated of how impactful that music was over the years. And what they were showing you in that barn was how impactful that music has been throughout the rest of history. So that's what they were trying to show you. And that noise was then calling in the spirits. And that's how good it was. That's what it was emblematic
But
of.
they can't
That's
come in unless you invite them in.
I
That's
know
what
it's a weird movie, right? That's the only well because if they could come in, everyone would just die instantly. So
yes,
they had to come up with something like that.
yes, yeah,
So it does make sense, and
yeah.
it was awesome.
I did the one part I did like is they had that guy from Ballers, that offensive lineman
Oh
from
yeah,
Ballers. Yeah,
Ballers is a good show.
Cornbread I think was his name or
Yeah.
something like that. I like that guy. But yeah, I can understand that a little bit. I still don't get why they needed the vampires needed to do a song and dance outside of the barn. Like,
Well, because when they tried to get in the barn, remember they were pretending that they were other artists.
yeah. But then when they did this freakish crate, that didn't help. That made it way worse. It was way scarier. Uh,
Exactly.
but and I'm glad it was 3 minutes long too. Yeah, just play the whole song, baby.
All right.
I got nowhere to be.
All right. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this episode of the Just Baseball Show. Enough of that. Enough of that because it's just going to keep getting me more angry. Again, if everybody enjoyed, best way to support, rate, review, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, and make sure to go get yourself some Just Baseball merch. I'm rocking the Athletic tee. Arm's rocking the Rockies Just Baseball tee. We're both rocking different hats. Make sure to get yours in the episode description. And of course, join the best baseball group chat in the world. You can find it on our Discord. Link is in the episode description. For Arm Layton, I'm Peter Apple. We will see you on Thursday. And with that, thank you, everybody.